Good morning, dear students. Welcome to our English class. Today, we are going to see a very interesting supplementary from Unit 2. You will like to read the story many times. Yes, dear children, read the story and understand because it is a bedtime story. The title of the supplementary is Gulliver's Travel. Gulliver embarks on 4 separate voyages in Gulliver's Travels. There is a storm before every journey. This Gulliver's Travel, written by Jonathan Swift. All the 4 voyages add new perspective to Gulliver's life. Now let us see Gulliver's Travel, that is chapter 1, Shipwrecked. His dreams to travel, dear children. He was born in England in a very good family, a loving family he was born, and he was educated very highly. Gulliver's Travel has been written by Jonathan Swift, and it is the story of the various adventures of Lemuel Gulliver, who is basically the narrator and protagonist in the book. Gulliver, a married surgeon from Nottinghamshire, England, is someone who loves traveling. He loves to travel and he wants to travel by ship. That is what his dream. He works as a surgeon on ships and lands up becoming a ship captain. As a surgeon, he was also selected as a ship captain. Through many unfortunate events during his voyage at sea, Gulliver gets stranded in foreign lands and observed situations. One day, as he was looking at the window, his wife asked, "What happened? Why are you looking at the window?" Then he said, "I like to travel by ship, and they have selected me as a captain, and I like to go." That is what his dream is. He expressed this view to his wife. And his wife said, "Don't worry. What your heart says, you listen and you do it. You can fulfill your dream." Then he said, "I worry about you and our kids." Then she said, "Don't worry about them. I will take care of them. But you return it safely. You return back safely." That is what she said to him. Then he said, "Surely." Then he traveled by ship. Then his wife and kids, everyone said bye to him. His dream was fulfilled. Then he started his journey, saying bye to his family members. As he started his journey, the strong wind was there, and his ship went and hit on a rock, and he fell into the sea. The ship turned up and down, so he fell into the sea. As he fell into the sea, he wanted to escape to the land. He wanted to come to the land. He was trying to swim. See, children, this is the strong wind, and the storm was very heavy. Because of the storm, the ship went and hit on a rock. The captain was trying his level best, but he could not, and went and hit on a rock, and the ship turned up and down. And Gulliver was in the sea, trying to swim and want to come to the land. As he was trying to reach to the land with his level best, he reached to the land, and he was very tired. He was hungry and he was very tired. He was not even able to speak or walk or lie down or to open his eyes. As he reached to the land, he was lying on the land. As he closed his eyes, he could not open because he was very tired. Now let us see the chapter 2, Prisoner in Lilliput. When he opened his eyes, I woke up the next morning. I couldn't move. I must still be tired from all the swimming, I thought. But soon I discovered why I couldn't move. My body, arms, and legs were tied to the ground. Even my hair, which was long and thick, was tied down. I couldn't even move my head. How strange, I said to myself. I must be dreaming. The sun grew hot and shone in my eyes. All I could see was the sky. Soon I felt something crawling on my left leg. It must be a bug, I thought. It moved up my body almost to my chin. I looked downward. To my great surprise, I saw a tiny man standing on my chest. He was about as big as my thumb, no more than 15 centimeters tall. In his hands he held a bow and arrows. I felt many more little men crawling over me. In Get off me, you insects! They all jumped in arms and screamed in terror. Some of the little men fell right off my body. I tied a loosen and ropes. Although the ropes were very thin, like thread, there were hundreds of them. Finally, I was able to free my left arm. The tiny men began to shoot arrows at me. Several arrows landed on my hand. Others hit my face and chest. Stop that! It hurts, I cried out. I decided to lie still and see what would happen next. The little people gradually became brave and came near me. They built a platform beside my head. One of them, an official of some kind, climbed on platform. He started speaking to me, but his language was not like any language I heard. The little men seemed friendly. I'm so hungry, I said, but they didn't understand me. With my free hand, I used signs to ask for food. The men brought me baskets of many different food. I also drank 2 barrels of wine. Another official spoke to me, making signs with his hands as he talked. I understood that they were going to take me to another place. I fell asleep again. Later, I found out that the wine had contained something to make me sleep. I also learnt about the island and what had happened while I slept. The island was called, its king lived in a castle in Milando, the capital city, which had high walls. The people made a cart and put me on it when I was asleep. I found out that it took 900 men to lift me. 1500 Lilliputian horse were. When we arrived near the city, the guards attacked. Then they cut the ropes. At last, I was able to stand up and stretch, but because of the chains, I could not move about much. We were near a very large building just outside the gates. Well, I thought, it seems this building is too big. It was big enough for me to crawl. From outside my new home, I had a good view of the countryside. The fields were tiny, like small flower beds in the garden in England. Even the tallest tree were only about 2 meters. Lilliput was a beautiful place and everything in it was unbelievably tiny. Chapter 3, Visits from the King. One day the king and queen came to visit me. Soon a large noisy crowd gathered because people were very curious about me. Some people pushed others out of the way to get a better look. They wanted to see me and hear what the king was taller than most Lilliputians and moved. He and the queen wear magnificent clothes. I lay down on my side so that the king and I could observe each other more safely. He spoke to me for a long time, but I couldn't understand his words. Then the king and queen returned to the palace. He left his guards to watch me and control. Some men in the crowd shouted and shot arrows on me. The chief guard ordered 6 of them to be caught and tied up. To punish them, the guard gave them to me. You'll make me delicious snacks, I said. I put 5 of the tuber troublemakers in my pocket and picked them and 6 of them between my fingers and thumb. He struggled and I moved my hand towards my mouth and he screamed. I took out my pocket knife and he thought I was. Instead, I cut the string that he was tied with and put the man carefully on the ground. Then I looked the other man out of my pocket. Don't ever shoot at me again, I said as I sat. Soon everyone in Lilliput knew about me, but people had trouble pronouncing my name. To make things easy, they called me Enormous One in their language. The king ordered his best scholars to teach me the Lilliputian language. I learn languages easily because I am interested in people from other countries. In about 3 weeks, I knew enough Lilliputians to talk with the king. He came to visit me often. Each time I asked him the same thing. Please, Your Majesty, take the chains off my ankle. First, I must consult with my adviser, the king replied. Also, you must show my officers what is in your pockets. Your officers may inspect all my possessions. I took everything out of my pocket and the officers examined my things with great interest. Later, I read the report they wrote about. My handkerchief and my pocket knife were noted. is the large shiny engine. It makes a sound again and again. The enormous one often looks at the engine. Lilliputians had no clocks, so the officers didn't know what my gold watch was for. The enormous one has another metal thing. It is bent, and part of it is a long. My gun had been discovered. What is this thing for? Asked the king. I will show you, but it will make a loud noise, I explained. Order your people to move away from that tree. I don't want anyone to get. I pointed my gun at the tree and fired. Many people fell down or ran away or hid. The noise terrified everyone, including the king. But the calmed down quickly. You may keep your things, he told me. But I will keep the metal one that makes the big noise. It is my gift to you, I said. Please be very careful with it and keep it locked up. Now let us see chapter 4, Calivus goes free. I hoped to be set free one day, so I was nice to the Lilliputians. Gradually, they lost their fear of me. Sometimes the children even played hide and seek in my hair. One day the king said to me, I invite you to attend an important performance. It is a contest called rope dancing. Come with me. For this contest, a thin rope was tied between two poles very high above the ground. The people who wanted the best jobs had to dance on this rope. Each dancer tried to jump higher than the others. I had never seen such a dangerous sport. Your Majesty, I said, many dancers must fall and be hurt or killed. Yes, he replied. Some break their arms or legs, and several have broken their necks. But I give the most important job in my kingdom to the men who are afraid and jump highest. These brave men will work harder for Lilliput. When a strange way to choose who will work for the country, I thought. Then, as the king watched, I attached each corner of my handkerchief to a strong stick. I pushed the four sticks into the ground. My handkerchief was now under the rope but above the ground. Your Majesty, I said, any dancer who falls will now land on my handkerchief and not get hurt. You are wise, enormous one, said the king. I am pleased with your invention. His family and many other people watched the rope dancing. Would you and the queen like to see better? I asked the king. I gently put them on my hand and held it beside. They had a good view of the dances. One very skilled performer turned several cartwheels on the bear. Then he held on to the rope and flipped his body right over it. The king and the queen clapped loudly and cheered. Later, the king told me that he made this man one of his chief advisors. The king and I met often. He seemed to enjoy our conversations. One day I said again, Your Majesty, please set me free. This time he answered, I have talked to my advisors. We agree that you have been good to our people. I will set you free if you make 6 promises. What must I promise? I asked. You must help my country in war and peace, said the king. I promise, I said. Before you visit the capital, continued the king, you must give two horses housewarming. Then my people can get out of the streets, I promise. You must not step on my people or their animals, I promise. You must carry important messages for me quickly to anywhere in Lilliput, I promise. Also, said the king, you must help my workers carry heavy objects, I promise. The last promise, said the king, is this. You must not leave the kingdom without my permission. If you do so, I will be angry. I promise that too, I told the king. Then you may have your freedom, he said. Unchain the enormous one, the king ordered his men. Now you can travel throughout Lilliput, he said. Thank you, Your Majesty, I said. I would like to see more of your country. When you come to the capital city, you may visit my palace, the king said. I am sure you will find it the most beautiful you have ever seen. Now let us see chapter 5, a visit to Mildendo. Oh, my first day of freedom! I went into the capital city, Mildendo. I stepped over the city walls and walked through the streets. Most of the houses in Mildendo had 3 to 5 stories. They were painted in many bright colors and some had useful patterns painted on them. People watched me curiously from every window. The city was a square with 2 main streets that crossed in the middle of the city. These 2 streets divided Mildendo into quarters. The main streets were just wide enough for me to walk down. I could not go into the smaller streets though, because my feet were too big and those streets were too narrow. Because the Lilliputans are so small, I had to walk very carefully so as not to step on anyone. Hello, I said to people as I passed them. Some people waved. A man in a blue coat called out, Welcome to Mildendo. This is the most crowded city I've ever seen, I said to him. 500,000 people live here, he replied almost proudly. The king's palace was in the center of the city, surrounded by a high, thick wall. I climbed over the wall and lay down on the ground. From there, I could see into the palace rooms. Everything in the palace was beautiful, just as the king had said. In one room, I saw the queen talking with some ladies. When she saw me, she came to the window. Enormous one, she said, Welcome to our fair city. You may kiss my hand. Her hand was smaller than the nail of my little finger. I am honored to see you, Your Majesty, I replied. Your palace is magnificent. In all my travels, I have never seen a better palace. I kissed her tiny hand very carefully. The queen and I talked for a little while. All things in Lilliput, the people, the birds, the animals, the plants, the trees, are tiny. The people would fit nicely into my daughter's dollhouse. Even the tallest trees on the island are only a little taller than I am. When I first arrived, I was surprised at the smallness of everything. After a few weeks, though, I got used to it. Day by day, I learned more about the customs of Lilliput. In Lilliput, as in England, a person who does something bad is punished. The king of Lilliput, however, also rewards good people. If they obey all laws for 6 years, he gives them money. What an interesting idea, I said to myself. The King of England does not reward people for good behavior. His people might behave better if he. One day a visitor came to see me. My name is Redrizel, he said. I am the king's chief assistant. I help him make decisions and take care of his important business. I am very happy to meet you, sir, I said to Redrizel. Please thank His Majesty for giving me my freedom. Now I can explore your lovely island. The king set you free, explained my new friend, because he needs your help. Lilliput is in danger. What kind of danger? I asked. Ah, that is a long story, Redrizel replied. Let me tell you a little of the history of Lilliput. Now let us see chapter 6, Lilliput in Danger. There are two politician groups in Lilliput, began Redrizel, the high heels and the low heels. The groups are named after the style of shoes their members wear. Once the high heels were the most popular group, Redrizel went on. Our king and his officials, however, are low heels. Do the two groups get along? I asked. Oh no, the two groups hate each other, said Redrizel. The king is afraid that the high heels may try to take his power. And could they? Perhaps we think that there are more high heels than low heels in Lilliput, said Redrizel. What worse, the king is very upset with his son, the prince of Lilliput. The prince wears one shoe with high heels, his other shoe has low heel. That's why the prince moves up and down as he walks. The king also has enemies in other palaces, Redrizel continued. Lilliput and a nearby island, Blifkus, have been at war for there. That island to that, Redrizel noted. How did this war start? I asked. The war began over how people cut open boiled eggs, Redrizel explained. I beg your pardon? I thought that I had misunderstood his words. I was still learning Lilliputians. Boiled eggs? He repeated. People in Lilliput like to eat boiled eggs. An egg has a big end and a small pointed end. Almost everyone in Lilliput used to cut open their boiled eggs and at the big end. The problem started when our king's grandfather was a little boy. He was then the prince of Lilliput and his father was the king. One day the prince cut open the egg at the big end. He got careless and cut his finger. The king got very angry because the prince was hurt. That day the king made a new law. From then on, everyone in Lilliput had to cut open their boiled egg at the small end. Small enders are people who obey law. Big Enders refused to obey the law. I suppose, I said, that these two groups also hate each other. Correct, over the years they have had many fights, said Red Rizzle. Ah, current king is a small ender. Some big enders have gone to live in Plephacus. The king of Plephacus would like to take over Lilliput and the big enders support him. We have heard rumors that the Plephacus king plans to attack Lilliput with many ships. Can you find a way to help us? Red Rizzle, I asked. I'm sure I can. He told me that more than 50 ships were in the harbour at Phlippacus. Only about a kilometre of sea separates the two islands. The water between them is quite shallow. For the next few days, I kept away from the shore of Lilliput, that is opposite Phlippacus. I did not want the Plephacans to see me. I had figured out a plan for helping, but it is the Phlippacus knew about me, my plan would fail. A few days later, I spoke to the king. I have a secret plan, I said, to steal many of the Phlippacus ships. Then your enemies will not be able to invade Lilliput. I would appreciate your help, enormous one, replied the king. After I explained my plan, he said, tell me what you need to make your plan work. Have your workmen make 50 very large metal hooks, I told. I need lots of strong rope. Those things will be ready in 2 days, promised the king. The look on his face was very serious. Chapter 4, Saving Lilliput. Two days later, everything I needed for my plan was ready. This morning I will go to Plephacus, I told you. I hope your plan works, he replied. Lilliput's fate depends on you. I'll be back soon, I said. I went down to the shore carrying the 50 hooks. Each had a rope tied to it. I took off my shoes and socks, waded into the sea. The water between the two islands was shallow, so I could walk most of the way. Soon I reached the harbour of Phlippacus. When the Phlippacans saw me, they were very frightened. I heard someone shout, "Urgent! Run for your lives!" Another man screamed, "That monster will kill us all." The Phlippacus jumped out of their ships and swam to shore. Many of the people shot arrows to each ship I attacked. Then I gathered all the ropes and began to pull them. None of the ships moved. What the problem? I wondered, then I understood. It's the anchors. Each ship had a heavy anchor that kept in a place. I went from ship to ship and cut all the anchor ropes with my knife. Then I pulled on the ropes I had tied to the ships. Slowly they started to move. I walked through the waves, pulling the ships behind me. On the shore, the Phlippacans shouted and screamed as I lured their ships away. They could do nothing to prevent me. Luckily, the tide was out and the water was becoming shallow. I did not have to swim and pull the ships at the same time. I could wade all the way back to Lilliput. The king of Lilliput and many other people were watching from the shore of that island. They could see the ships coming. They could not see me because only my head was above water. They were in despair. They thought that the Prefects were attacking Lilliput and that I must have drowned. As I neared the shore, I called out, "Long live the king of Lilliput!" When the king and his people finally saw me, they shouted, "Hooray! Welcome back!" They were very happy to see me. The king even came to meet me at the edge of the water. "My people and I are very grateful to you, enormous one," he said. "You have saved Lilliput. Thank you." "I am happy that I could help you," I replied. "You were very brave," the king continued. "From now on, you will be one of my chief advisers." "That is a great honor," I said to the king. "Now I would like to ask another favor," he said. "Go back and steal the rest of the Philippines ships. Then they will never be able to attack us again. I will never power over them forever. I will destroy all the big Indians. I will be king of everywhere." "I am sorry, your majesty," I replied. "I cannot agree to do this." "Why not?" he demanded. "Plificus is a good country like Lilliput," I said, "and I should be free like Lilliput. I think the two countries should live in peace from now on. I want the rest of the Plificans' ship," the king insisted. "You must obey my order." "I cannot help you, your majesty," I told him again. I tried to make him understand my point of view, but I failed. The king was very angry because I refused to do as he asked. This is the end of chapter 7. Now let us see the chapter 8, a peace offer. That is most important one. The peace is more needed. The king never forgot my resolve to take the rest of the Philippines ship. I had prevented the Philippines from attacking Lilliput, but he was still angry with me. Some of the king's men agreed with my decision. "You did the right thing," one of them told me. Not everyone, however, felt the same way. "You are a traitor," another of the king's advisers growled at me. Through my friends in the palace, I heard that I now had some secret enemies. From then on, they and the king were against me. About 3 weeks passed. One day, the Plifican king sent 6 of his officials to Lilliput to speak for him. The officials had a long meeting with the Lilliputian king. Because I was still one of his chief officials, I was at the meeting. "Your Majesty," said the chief official from Plificus, "our king would like to make peace with you. Plificus and Lilliput have been at war for a long time. Many of our people have died or been hurt. It has been a long war," sighed the king. He and the visiting officials discussed how their countries couldn't get along with them. The king of Lilliput wanted the king of Phlycus to agree a certain conditions. After hours of discussion, the two sides reached an agreement. I accept your king's peace offer, the king of Lilliput said finally. Tell him that I will have my chief officials write up an agreement. Then your king and I will sign it. I was surprised but happy to hear Lilliput's king say this. The two countries would no longer be at war. The next day, the Plifacus officials came to see me. Our king is heard of your refusal to take the rest of his ships, the chief official said. I asked me to thank you. He thinks you are the He invites you to come and Phlycus for a visit. I would be delighted to travel to Phlycus and meet your king, I replied. I will ask the king of Lilliput for his permission for taking their ships. The Phlycus were no longer angry with me. I was happy that they were ready to forgive and forget. Our meeting continued for a few hours. The Philippine officials were curious about me. They had never met a giant before and they asked me many questions. Would you do something to show us how strong you are? One asked. Of course, I replied. Just outside my house was a large rock. It was much bigger than the tiny Plifacans. I picked it up with both my hands. Even for me, it was quite heavy. I threw it into an empty field as the Plifacans watched. Your strength is amazing, the chief officials exclaimed. When the visit ended, he repeated his invitations. Come to visit us soon in Phlycus said. I will give you a good report of you to our king. A few days later, I had a chance to speak to the king of Lilliput. Your Majesty, I said, the king of Phlycus has invited me to visit. I would like to go. May I have your permission, please? Yes, the king replied, although his manner was quite cold. You may visit Phlycus, but let me know before you leave Lilliput. Now let us see chapter 9, Fire at the Palace. Fire at the Palace. From then on, the king of Lilliput and not demanded much of me. I suppose that was because he no longer liked me. I could do as I pleased and go wherever I liked in Lilliput. Not long after the Phlycans official visited me, I had an opportunity to help the king of Lilliput. About midnight, one night, people screaming outside my house woke me up. They were frantic and I could not understand. Suddenly, some palace officials arrived. Hurry! One of them cried. You must come with us. It's an emergency. The palace is on fire. Of course, I replied and refused to go get dressed. Jump onto my. I carry you all so that we hurried to that palace. The fire had started by accident in the room of one of the queen's maids. A burning candles had fallen over and some curtains caught on fire. When we arrived, the fire was out of control. Many people were trying to put it out. Two leaders and leaned up against the castle walls near the open window of the maid's room. A man was at the top of each ladder. People were passing buckets of water up to those men. The men threw water on the flames but did not do much good. The Lilliputian buckets were tiny and held very little water. As each minute passed, the fire burned more strongly. The fire spread to another room, cried one of the men on the ladder. The whole palace might burn down, shouted the other one. A feeling in my body suddenly gave me an idea. The night before, I had drunk quite a lot of wine. The wine had made me very thirsty. So I had drunk a lot of water too, enough to fill about 20 Lilliputian barrels. I had felt so tired after drinking the wine that I had fallen asleep right away. I could feel all the water still inside me. The firefighters did not have enough water to put on the fire. Stand back, I shouted to them. I will put out the fire. Please turn your backs to me. I did just what a little boy could do when he is outside and had to go to. I aimed through the open windows. Soon the fire was out. Hooray! Shouted the crowd of people who had been watching. Three cheers for the enormous. He has saved the palace. The emergency was over, so I went back to my house. I was happy that I had been able to put out the fire. But I was worried that the king would not like the way I had done it. The king had a law about people doing what I'd done right outside the palace. The next day, the king sent me a message. It said, Enormous one, your behavior was against the law. I realized, though, that there was no other way to put out the fire. So I will excuse your bad behavior just this one. I am grateful that you saved my palace. Ah, the queen was not as understanding as the king. My behavior disgusted her. She told everyone she would not allow the burnt part of the palace to be. I will never go into those rooms again, she said. I will never forgive the giant. He has no manners. That is the end of chapter 9. Now we have 10. Several of the king's officials did not like me. One, whose name was Flimnap, hated me for some reason. Flimnap and his supporters had convinced the king that I was dangerous. They thought I was a threat to him and their country. Luckily, I had a friend who was lord in the court of the king. Late one night, my friend visited me secretly. Enormous one, he said, you know that you have enemies in Lilliput. Many of them are jealous. Flimnap tells that lies about you. He says that you have done very bad things that are against the law. The punishment for these bad things is death. I have always tried to help the king, I said. I felt upset and began to shout. I took the Philippine ships for him. I saved the palace. I helped end the war. Talk quietly, Flimnap spices maybe, said the Lord with fear in his voice. Flimnap will kill me if he finds out I have. What are my enemies saying about me? I asked nervously. They keep telling the king that you are against him, replied my friend. You did not return to Philippus and steal the rest of the ships. You did not help to destroy all the big Your enemies here say that you are an enemy of Lilliput. They are twisting the truth, I said. My actions were good. The king of Lilliput reminded the bad officials that you had helped him, the Lord went on. But your enemies are very powerful. They suggested setting your house on fire while you are asleep in it. Then you would die in the fire. What? I exclaimed. I was very angry. Flimnap and the others are evil men. But the king decided that you will not be killed, said my friend. Retlick helped make things better for you. What did he do? He said you had made mistakes, but you had been a big help sometimes. He asked the king to be generous. He said that instead of being killed, you should lose your sight. But that's horrible. I was shocked. Then you would still be strong enough to work for the king, explained the Lord. But you would not be a threat to him or to Lilliput. I thought was a friend. I put my hands over my eyes. Rizal will visit you in a few days to tell you about. Then the king will order his men to shoot arrows into your eyes. You will be blind. I can't believe anyone would do such a terrible thing, I exclaimed. But thank you for warning me about this sorrowful plan. Think about what to do, said my friend, and make a decision soon. The Lord left and went back to the palace. I stayed up all night and thought about what to do. I could kill the king and all the bad men. I did not like that idea. The king had been kind to me in the past. But because he was weak, he listened to Flimnap and the other bad men. It did not take me very long to decide that I must escape from Lilliput. This is a very soon time, I said to myself, to go to Plificus. So, dear children, read the supplementary at least 5 times. Then only you will understand. It is a beautiful story to understand. Thank you.